Good morning, everybody. It's me, Eric Duham. I'm trying to be enthusiastic again because these two knuckleheads beside me said I need to be. So we'll just go with that. Welcome to the Shepherd Station. We're at 24 East Church Street. We're at the Stockyard. We're still in our, we're trying to make this our place. But come down and see us. We got good food, new breakfast menu starting at 6 o'clock. Why are you staring at me, Andy?
Oh, you just look funny with your little beard going.
Yeah, no, I shaved it off. My boy wanted me to shave it off, and now he wants me to grow it back.
Yeah, my wife's mad at me for shaving mine.
You know, the funny thing is Erica looked at me. She said, "You look so young." I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." Yeah, she said, "No, grow it back." I was like,
Don't take it all the way down to the skin
No.
like I did. My wife's like, no.
Well, I have this problem. I have the Indian beard. I can grow a patchy here and a patchy there. So,
That's that white trash beard.
that's what it is. Well, I got a good
Myth.
goatee, but I can't get this right here. So we'll just, do what I do.
Drugs are bad.
Anyway, come and see us. We're at the Stockyard. We got really good food, a great new breakfast. Stockyard Sweets is coming, so we're going to have all kind of, sweet stuff. And this guy over here,
great.
our guest today, I say he's a guest. He's been on, what, 3 times now?
Third time.
Third
It's
time.
a charm.
So he's kind of becoming a regular with us. She's gonna make him fat when he starts eating the.
No, she's gonna put me back in the hospital.
Which is what we're going to talk about today.
I would not recommend that vacation. The brochure lied. So,
I got Andy here, and I got Thomas over here. As always, Thomas, will you give your spiel about where they need to follow, please?
Yeah, so we got Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Shepherd Station. I mean, pretty much anywhere you want to listen, that any major listening program, software, whatever, we're there. So check us out.
We need to get on X.
Yeah, we do need to.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, y'all gonna have to spool me up on this. I'm on Instagram.
It's Twitter.
Yeah, the old
X
I
is
don't-
Twitter.
I am not.
Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it into
Turned it
X.
into X.
X.
He said we're not twitting no more.
No, we're not.
Okay.
We're not
We're
twitting.
Yeah, we're not twitting anymore.
We're not twits anymore.
No, we're Xing now, I guess.
Hey, did anybody? But before we go any further, I don't mean to cut you off. Did anybody catch the whole
No,
interview that broke the internet? They said.
I didn't. But,
I want to.
the Elon Musk interview that he did with that reporter?
no, with Trump.
No, with
Oh,
Trump.
with Trump.
Yeah,
Oh, I
they
hadn't heard about that.
They had some long conversation. And
Oh, wow.
it broke the internet.
I think
Apparently.
I think Iran was trying to hack into it. And,
Oh, it actually broke.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, oh, it's so good. It broke the internet.
well, it
they
probably
did.
was that too. But
Oh.
I saw a thing this morning where the European Union had sent Elon Musk a letter, and they were going to censor him and embargo him or whatever else you can do
EU?
with a website or a social media platform. And they were threatening him because he had Trump on there, and they were saying Trump was
That's like
spreading
Britain's gonna come over here
misinformation.
and arrest
Yeah.
us for.
I think
Have a
Britain-
meme for that.
Yeah,
Did you see that? Where the
police commissioner?
police commissioner over there is
Yeah.
talking about he's going to extradite.
yeah. Good
I
luck
thought it
with
was
that.
a comedy skit.
I'd like to see that.
Good
Happen.
luck with that, boy.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Hold on.
interesting.
Let me give you my address.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. No,
Wild times.
Doesn't Elon own like half the world anyway? I mean,
He owns a lot of stuff.
He's the richest man in the
he
world.
owns the space
Or no,
program,
Jeff Bezos
so-
is the richest man in the world now.
Jeff
isn't he?
Bezos?
Or was he? And then Elon Musk. I can't remember.
Oh,
They're
they're kind of tit
top
for
5.
tat. Yeah.
Top 5 for sure.
Yeah, they're probably the top 2.
Top 2, yeah. But yeah, so that's where you can listen to our nonsense. And our website is up. We have the Shepherd Station website. Check us out. There's free resources on there from Dr. Olivia Johnson. We're adding stuff as we get.
ShepherdStation.com.
Yeah, theshepherdstation.com is our website. You can check us out there. And then you can listen to our podcast and our YouTube, watch our YouTube stuff there if you want. We also have merch on there. Our events are on there that we're going to be doing. We've got one that is going to be coming up eventually. We just got to get all the details nailed down. So
I promise it's coming.
yeah, and we appreciate everybody that does support us. I don't know if we say that enough, but everyone that does already support us, thank you so much. And we'd love to be able to continue and doing this. And so if you do support us, thank you.
Yeah, and we've had quite a few views. It really
Oh,
has
yeah,
surprised
man.
me. And we've probably had somewhere around over 2,000 views total.
Oh no, way more than that.
Way more than that?
Way
Okay.
more than that. Yeah, we've got like 6,000, I think, on
good
YouTube.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
okay.
like
I'll tell you
we're
what,
rocking and rolling.
That's good.
There's a lot of good things we've had on here. Today's going to be a good one too. I mean, Marcus has got a really strong story. If you didn't get to watch our last episode, it's with Amira. You really can only listen to it
I overslept. My bad.
Oh, you can listen to it. It's
Yeah.
we had to hide her face. Man, that one
Understandable.
was good. It was really powerful. We had a lot of people.
I had a lot of good comments from people that I shared it with.
It was something.
Yeah.
Y'all need to tune in for that one.
Yeah.
Tune in for all of them, but
Yeah, and we
was
didn't
really
put her
cool.
picture up or anything. We have it, so when you look for it, it's just a disclaimer because there's no video because she asked that we keep her identity secret.
Yeah.
So
She had some family members that wanted to kill her because she converted from the Islamic faith to the Christian faith.
Yeah.
So
you need to listen to that one, Marcus.
Yeah.
yeah, it's intense.
Good
yeah, it
stuff.
is.
For sure.
I hate I missed that.
She talks about North Iraq, some Kurds.
I didn't realize there was as big a Muslim community and a Kurdish community, like she said, in where she lives.
Yeah.
We need to have her back
I'm not gonna
on
say
because
where
there are
she
a lot
lives.
of questions that I had too
Yeah.
that I think just asking her about certain things would be
I'm
good.
made out of questions I'd like to ask her.
Yeah,
Just
so
curious.
get Marcus on,
Yeah.
have her on.
Can
talk
you
about
imagine
it.
her and Marcus at the same time? That show would never end. Be like 4 hours into it. All right, next question.
We'd have to split it up into parts.
Yeah.
And if you got some ideas for a episode, something you'd like us to talk about, somebody that you'd like to have us to bring on as a guest, we can bring them on either in the studio here in Headland, or we can bring them on remotely from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So we'd appreciate your comments on that.
I actually thought you were going to say somebody for us to talk about, and we don't
Yeah.
want to talk about anybody. I mean, maybe.
That's funny.
I
I
don't
have a
know.
list.
Yeah. So, and we got some Crime Chronicles will be coming back. We got some
Yeah.
of those coming back. So I hope y'all have enjoyed some of those
We might even
interesting stories.
Yeah, we might be able to talk Andy into.
And some of the stories we can't tell. Just quit. That story I just told, hush.
Yeah.
No, you gotta keep that out there, but,
There's
we might
one
even
guy-
get Marcus in there.
There
for
was
some
one
of them.
guy I got in the attic one time, Andy. Do you remember?
Hey.
Yeah, we've already told that one.
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't want to
I
name
suckered him into it one day.
We let Marcus tell some of his stories. I bet he's got some wild ones.
I don't even remember.
I
who
do. I
caught
got
me.
some good ones.
He got
Yeah.
some hillbilly stuff.
Hillbilly law.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might even get Andy to do some rucking with Andy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we were
Some
gonna do
rucking
that.
with Andy stuff.
Y'all stay tuned for that. Andy, I mean, I know he looks like a big monkey, but knuckle dragging gorilla. But he's pretty smart. You got to give him that. So anyway, Marcus, hey,
Yo.
it's your show today, buddy.
Okay.
So tell us, everybody, this is Marcus Brigman. Marcus Brigman is a longtime friend of mine, longtime friend of Andy's. Marcus and I worked together for a long time in contracting, and actually Andy met him
That's
before
where I
I
first
did.
met him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I was like, look at that big guy.
And when Marcus and I met each other, it was just kind of like this instant, this is a brother that I didn't know I had.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus has been in the Army. He, you kind of shared that a little bit before, but we'll let
Yeah.
you share it again. And he, 16 years in law enforcement?
Yeah, about that.
And he's still,
roughly.
he's still instructing for the Army. He's got a really good story today. Marcus almost didn't make it through this, and he's here today with us to talk about it.
He's a hillbilly by birth.
I speak Appalachian American, so
Yeah.
keep up.
We will have
where
many
did-
Marcus isms in this show.
Where did you come from, Marcus? Where are you hatched at?
I'm
Where do you hail
originally
from?
I'm originally from the mountains, of North Carolina, near Asheville. I hate to say that because it's
I love Asheville.
a blue place.
Kind of an uppity, huh?
Asheville is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. That is San Diego of the East Coast.
No way.
Yes, sir.
Well, we had a good time when we went. All the
didn't
shops
realize
and
fun.
things.
It's
Tupelo
fun.
honey was really
yeah,
good.
there's some great stuff to see there. Like we had our prom at the Biltmore House.
Oh, wow.
Biltmore
That's
State,
awesome.
yeah. And it's just cool. I love the mountains. I had a house there. It got to where I would go there, and every time I would go there, I would get the police called on me. Weird. I'm like, and I know them all. I grew up with them. I'm like,
Why-
what are you
why are you
doing?
getting
I was
the
like,
police
what are you
called on
doing over
Yeah.
there? I went up to do some work on my house. I get there like 2:00 in the morning. Had motion lights. You pull up, all the lights come on. It lights up like a stadium. And I carried an M4 from my truck into the house because that's how I travel.
What's strange about that?
Sounds like a normal day in Alabama.
Next morning, about 7:00 in the morning, I'm sitting outside on a rock wall at the driveway. Police car pulls up. Guy I went to school with. He gets out. I'm like, hey man, I ain't seen him since high school. I was like, what brings you specifically to my driveway? He's like, well, I'm on a complaint. I'm like, where? He goes, here. I'm like, for what? He goes, we got a report of someone brandishing an assault rifle. I was like, I started laughing. I'm
And
like,
it took you 5 hours to get here?
yeah, I was like,
Well, they're
when
coming
did
up
you,
with an
I was
operations
like-
plan.
I was like, when did you get that call? He goes, it just come in. I was at a McDonald's, which is 3 minutes from the house. And I was like, what? So he goes, do you have one? I said, yeah, I got my M4 in the house. I said, I ain't been out swinging it around. I said, I carried it in the house like 2 o'clock in the morning. Here's the thing. You can't see nothing. No neighbors. It's all trees.
Well, apparently somebody saw something.
Who? Who is creeping?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The birds.
And
Hence
but
why
birds
you
aren't
had
real,
your
did you
rifle
know
out.
that?
every time I've been home to go work on that house, the law has showed up for some reason. Like I wear a gun. I'm wearing one right now. I'll carry a gun everywhere I go. And every time I go home, the law shows up. I'm like, hey man, what I do? You know,
What's the gun laws like in around there?
it's same as it is here. You can open carry or permit carry.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you said it was blue. You don't
It's-
normally see that in a
it's-
blue state.
No, it's that North Carolina. You can.
Well, the
you-
whole state ain't blue, though.
Yeah, it's just like if you look at a map of North Carolina, you got the triad, the Raleigh Durham area is blue, and Asheville's blue. So those two cities, that area, those two places dictate how that state lives.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't agree with, but that's a whole nother topic. But
So it sounds like there's a lot of people that live
So-
there that don't agree with it.
here, like I'm born and raised there, man, and I was in Ingalls, a grocery store chain. It's in North Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. The Ingalls hub started in Black Mountain. Bob Ingle opened up the place. They're everywhere. Walk in Ingalls, Lifetime grocery store, and I had my blue Fragile Flakes shirt on. And
Somebody took offense.
the manager walks up. He's like, hey. I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, sir, we've got a complaint. I'm like,
This will be the second time you got a complaint for wearing a shirt.
I was like,
Is
what?
this in the same trip?
No.
Okay.
And I was up there trout fishing for this one. I was staying with my stepmom. But I was like, what's going on? He's like, well, we had a complaint. This lady's really offended. And I'm thinking, what? I ain't talked to nobody in here. Because I can offend the devil in a few minutes. But I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, your shirt. And I looked down. I'm like, what's wrong with it? He said, well, it's offensive. I'm like, you're offensive. And the conversation didn't go well because it made me mad. And I just set my basket down in the middle of the aisle and walked out. I'm like, well, I'm gonna get stopped by the police before I get out of here. But it just got to where it's so expensive to live there that our house my dad built is on 1/3 of an acre. Our property taxes are over $3,000 a year.
Gosh.
It make you throw up. But
Wow.
that's where I'm from, and went in the Army, stationed at Fort Campbell. If you don't hunt or fish, you don't want to go there. But if you hunt and fish, man,
Great
that is,
place.
that is
Great
ooh, let
place
me
if
tell
you hunt or fish.
I'm telling you.
Land of the lakes.
Oh yeah.
So Marcus had some property up there, and while I was up there working, Marcus let me hunt his property, and he is not lying. There's some
You got to hunt the new place.
dude. An average sized doe up there is like a big buck here.
You got
There
to
are some big
You got to
deer
hunt
up
my
there.
new place. You see my big buck I killed up there? That,
Oh, yeah.
that made the state book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's some big.
it was
deer up there.
136 inches of antler,
Wow.
and I got a picture on my phone. It's massive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hear people, man, I've seen a 180-inch deer. I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you did not.
They were telling you it was, but
I was
it
like,
was not.
I was like, there's 136 inches of antler. I said, you did not see a 180-inch deer in your tree stand while you were deer. It didn't happen because I'd be looking at it. But it's just, yeah, you got to come up there and hunt that.
I got a 161 I killed over here in Georgia.
That's a toad. People don't realize.
Marcusism number one.
People don't realize how much antler it takes to
Add
have
up.
a
Oh, a
deer that
lot.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
my son knows how to do that. He's got the kit and everything where he can measure, racks and all.
Have
that.
you seen
it
that
takes a
new-
while to sit down and do all that.
They
and
got a new
record your
thing.
measurements.
It's got a scale. You lower it into the water. The displacement by the weight gives you the measurement, and it's within just a 1/16 of an inch of how much.
Wow.
I saw it on Instagram. I was like, what? So I got looking, researching it. It's the most accurate way. And a guy was like, I want to see the tub you put a bull elk in. I'm like,
Yeah.
he's got a point. But
All right, so you ended up in Fort Campbell. So
ended up there, done 10 years, and I was on the fence. I was up there at the
So
precipice.
you was with
of-
101st if you were at Fort Campbell, right? Mm-hmm. Screaming Eagle.
and yep, all the way.
What'd you do?
And I was in infantry there.
Well, I know that, but you spent some time on a bird, didn't you?
I crewed a Black Hawk for a year and a half as a door gunner. That because I was top gun on the M60. I'm dating myself.
Yeah, you are.
That's a man's machine gun.
Yeah.
So as a reward, I got to go crew a Black Hawk for a year and a half, and I thought, man, that was the coolest thing ever until you crash in one, and then it becomes not cool.
You can get sick in the back of one of them things too, can't you?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've never been motion sickness, and when you're in a crew seat, you're looking out the side. You're not facing forward or aft.
You're in the hellhole.
Yeah, and where you look, it's like being in a wind tunnel, but. It never bothered me. A lot of people can't sit sideways and look when you're going forward.
Yeah.
I've seen people and we used to give a brief. We take the air assault school guys on their little joyride. And I'm like, if you feel the need to throw up, you pull your shirt out and you puke down your shirt. You puke in my aircraft, you will clean it. Mm-hmm. And I see dudes back there just and puking in their helmet. Really? You going to puke in your helmet? I'm going to puke on you before I puke in my helmet. But anyway, I was like, that's the greatest thing ever. And I got to, after fast forward, working at Sears, seeing some of the people that's coming through the Go Fly helicopters. Yeah. Terrifying. Yeah. I have no desire to ever get on another helicopter again as long as I live, because I've seen some of these guys. And there's a lot of good guys and gals going through there, but some of them I'm like, the field artillery needs people. So, but yeah, I had the privilege to be on a long-range surveillance team.
Let's go back just a little bit. What brought you to enlist in the Army? Why?
It was instilled in me. Well, no, I wasn't the judge. I was close, but it wasn't.
Well, there's as many contacts as you have with the police.
Didn't actually make that to the actual judge to make him make me go. But I was raised with, do you need to give something back? Go serve, Right. And that's just how I was raised. And it ended up costing me in the long run because, like, my family got mad at me. They're like, you left home and didn't come back. And I'm like, oh. So I went and served my country. And you didn't come home to start farming. I'm like, well, I was enjoying what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hit the 10-year mark, had a bad day at work. I'm like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Like Jack Reacher said, I woke up one morning and the uniform just didn't fit.
Yeah.
And that summed it up pretty much. It's a whole thing. We can get into that later. And I went to the sergeant major. He had all my re-enlistment paperwork, and I was like, hey, you can just throw it in the trash. I'm shredded. He's like, no. I was like, I'm done. I couldn't. I seen the way it was headed with the BOSS program. If y'all know what that is, you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. They started taking away the little things of discipline. Like they didn't start. They went to the desert boots, and no shoes to shine, no uniforms to press. You couldn't do no more early room inspections. When I was a private, my team leader was in there at 5 o'clock in the morning, kicking the door open, kicking trash cans. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I couldn't wait to be a team leader to come in there and do that. And then it got to where we couldn't do that because it was hazing. And I'm like, no. And you started taking that little bit of discipline away. It showed on the backside of your job performance when you were doing stuff in the woods. And discipline starts with just the way you tie your shoes, how you look when you go to formation.
Make your bed in the morning.
If you get up in the morning, make your bed, and your uniform's prepped, you go out there at 9 o'clock formation, you look like $1 million. You're setting a standard. Mm-hmm. You're setting an example for the youngins to go, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And
so they don't do that anymore. I feel like that's really when I think of boot camp or like the military, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think of that.
Basic training, dude. You could see yourself in your boots. Man, it was like a pride thing.
Yeah.
And that when you take away the small pieces of discipline, it erodes into your job performance because it's attention to detail. Mm-hmm. Attention to detail will get you killed, like complacency. Complacency will kill you faster than a speeding bullet. And that's the reason about crash. Complacency, operating outside your comfort zone, always operate within your limits. But when it's that discipline, it bleeds into everyday life.
I've always found that most of the time, if people look like they know what they're doing, they usually do.
Usually.
Yeah, usually. There are exceptions. But
there are exceptions. But if you look at somebody that's squared away, you're like, man, that guy looks like he is on his A game.
Right.
He's probably on his A game. And like I had an officer when I was at FTO, he'd show up and I'm like, go home. He literally, they make belt keepers for a reason.
No, he's got his belt hanging down, and
It looked like Barney Fife. I'm like, man, is that a thigh rig you're wearing? Like his gun belt was like, and I'm like, his shirt looked like he had pulled it out of the trunk. And I'm like, dude, because when you step out of that patrol car, you're a representative elected official, that sheriff or that appointed chief. You are representing them. And I worked midnights 2.5 years by myself, the only officer in the county. When I step out of that car, I was representative of that elected official. If you look like bad, you were a direct. It was a direct
I could
reflection
see
on the
it.
sheriff.
it was going to be a bag of something. I
Because
could tell.
people were like, "Oh my God, look, the sheriff's running this kind of program." That
Allowing the sheriff or the chief's allowing
yeah,
his
and
folks
like,
to look like
what
this.
kind of? I ain't voting for that again, you know. And it, but
Can I give a disclaimer first? Everybody, Marcus's filter is broken sometimes. We try to run a clean show. And you know what? The last few times you did, the
good
2 times
job.
you did a good job of keeping it clean.
He did good.
I'm proud of
And
myself.
you did good just then. When he
You
gets
probably
going,
just,
though,
you probably just shot me in the foot on that.
sometimes there may be a few things that slip. We're probably not going to edit it out, but
It
hey,
won't be
It is what it is.
a super bad word, but that might not.
You'll know. We'll put the explicit,
Yeah, we'll put the
logo
explicit
on there.
there,
You'll
so-
know. But
do I get a beep over my? You're gonna
nah,
bleep me out.
no, I'm not doing that much editing.
I was like, that
Unless-
was like,
if it's one, I'll go through and I'll.
So when you were in the Army, or when you were stationed in Campbell, you and O'Dallas were married, weren't you?
yeah. When did I marry that woman?
That's not good. Marcus.
96.
Odie, we're sorry.
Look,
Don't-
man, look, my mind does not work right, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Hey.
I was supposed to have been here for the last show, and I woke up, my alarm is going 90-0. I'm like, oh, I gotta go down and see Eric. It's like 8:30. They'd already started. I was like, I ain't gonna make it, bro. I just woke up.
That's all right.
But
But I do want to say something about what you just said, because that'll preach. What you just talked about. I don't think that's only for the military. Like when it comes to your family, your community, God, you're representing all of
Absolutely.
these people.
100%.
Everybody thinks. What's that really common quote? No man is an island. Like we think that we are our own unique individual people, and the world wants us to be like these people that are isolated and different. When in reality, it's like we all affect each other, and we are all representatives of God specifically. If we're Christians, if we're believers, the world's looking at us.
yeah,
Well, the Bible tells us is do everything you do as if you were doing it for the Lord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's-
Your job, everything.
that's
Right.
an accurate statement. I mean, it's factual.
yeah. And so I see that with the military, with what you were talking about. It's like you had this idea. It's like, hey, we had to keep everything.
That was one
to
of
the
my
T.
things that tilted me to this. It's not my thing no more. And if you want to hear it, I'll tell the reason why my decision was to get out. But I spent time in the long range surveillance Lehman Company. It was one of the last 2 LURS companies still recognized by Ranger Regiment. It was the bleed over from the LURS guys in Vietnam. Gary Linder was one of the guys. He's wrote several books, Eyes of the Eagle, Eyes Behind the Lines, all that stuff. Y'all read them. They're awesome books. So that was our forefathers of that unit. That was the best unit I've ever been in, but yet the worst unit, because I got skinned up on the daily, because when I showed up for a job interview, I was a little chubby kid. And they knocked that right off of me.
They're going to
they-
ran you to death. We're going to run you to death.
I've never thrown up running, but I've been close. Where I'm like, I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Swallow
I made
that.
it. Yeah. But there's a reason for that. PT twice a day. I was like, man, this is brutal. After you go out and land a ghillie suit for 3 or 4 days and don't move, then you have to jump up and run. You will tear every muscle in your body. That's why the reason for that excessive PT, it all come into focus and made sense.
Yeah.
But I left LURS. I done that several years. Great time, man. I was on jump status, had some good jumps, broke my back, turned my parachute in, walked back to the barracks, 12, 13 miles. I'm like, my back hurts. It was broke. So I had
From the impact.
I had a compression fracture on my L5. It's pushed forward. Years later, I'm like, oh man, I got like 3 days off for no PT. They're like, oh, you're being a Sally, you know. And I'm like, man, something's wrong with my back. It was like black and blue. So I got 3 days of no PT. So I went right back to running. I'm like, oh my gosh, it hurts.
Take some Motrin.
So yeah, change your socks, drink some water, take a knee face out. I don't know, just it'll buff.
Yeah.
So years later, I was working at the sheriff's office. I pulled up to a boat ramp and I went to get out of my car and I turned. And I thought somebody shot me. Literally, I was on the ground, paralyzed. I'm like, oh my God. I'm not trying to get on the radio, trying to get my gun. I thought I was shot. I spent a month probably crawling from my bed to the bathroom. I went to the chiropractor. He x-rayed it, and he's like, when did you break your back? And I'm like, I know exactly when that happened. So the VA, I got 10% for breaking my back.
Oh, a whole 10%.
10%.
Awesome.
Back's not important.
No.
If you hurt your back, you know what I'm talking about. You can't do nothing with a hurt back. You can't even go to the bathroom. But, yeah, and it's that sheriff's like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. It's something it finally said, I'm done. But that was awful.
How long did it take to get over that?
I still ain't got over it.
Well,
But
you're moving.
to get back to where it was months of dude, people not chiropractors. It was months with a chiropractor. That dude fixed me to where I could function.
Yeah.
But he's like, man, he wanted me to come in one day with all my kit on and do some stuff, and he's like, you're wearing too much stuff. I'm like, I kind of need this.
Yeah.
My back belt and everything. I need, you know, it's kind of a must-have. And he's like, when you get out of your car, I want you to turn, put your feet on the ground, and stand up. I'm like, sometimes I can't do that. I have to. I'm like getting out running, or you know. He's like, you need to be easy when you get out of your car. I'm like, that briefs really well.
Let me tell you what I do.
Like you're rolling up, the door's open, you're dragging your foot, getting ready to throw it in park because you're moving as soon as that thing. And yeah. So, but done that, then I got the call. I've been in some heinous stuff. Like I said, I worked 2.5 years by myself. I graduated academy, honor graduate, Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy. I was like, man, I know everything.
Well, let me stop you there real quick. I want to ask you something real quick. So you going back to the military, you decided you were going to get out.
Yeah.
Did you have a plan for that? I mean, did you know you say, you know what, I'm going to get out and I'm going to go be a cop?
What am I qualified to do?
Yeah.
Shoot people in the face. So I'm like, that and dig ditches.
Well, didn't want to dig ditches.
I ain't digging ditches. So I'm like, I'm going to go police. So I applied. My wife was working at Train, making really good money.
Was she okay with that?
Yeah, she's like, get a job. I'm like, I'm on terminal leave. I need a break. And she's like, get a job. So I went down and applied at the sheriff's office. Luckily, the sheriff was from Asheville, North Carolina. Hired me on the spot. I was like, sweet. My FTO program then was riding around with a 65-year-old guy waving at everybody. I'm like, let's go do something. What do we do? I done that for a couple of weeks, and then I got my academy date. Went down to the academy, got honor grad. Only first guy in the department history. Come back on Friday after graduation. Walked in. I'm like, hey, Sheriff. He goes, are you coming to work tomorrow? Or I was like, what? I was like, did I get the weekend off? He's like, yeah, you can. Yeah, just show up Monday morning at 8. I'm like, day shift. So I showed up. I worked 1 day of day shift. I showed up Monday morning. I go in there. I'm like, I don't know what to do. You know, I was like, they handed me this thing of keys and a list with money. And they're like, okay, you need to go to the post office. This is the P.O. box. Get all the mail. Go down here to these 3 gas stations. And here's the orders. And I'm like,
this ain't police.
I was like, there are 5 of y'all in here and 1 of me and the sheriff and the chief deputy. That was the 3 of us. I was like, what do y'all go? So I went down to a place called Rivers Bend. It's as far out in the county as you can get, literally, and still be in radio contact. Like you're on the Montgomery County line down on the river.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just learning the county, you know. They called me, they're like, what's your 1020? I'm like, Rivers Bend. They're like, what are you doing down there? I'm like, learning roads. Hour later, they're like, what's your 20? I'm like, 7 Mile Ridge. They're like, what are you doing down there? I'm like, learning the county. I burned all day. I come back, I'm like, man, I forgot to go get you lunch, and I'm sorry. Sheriff come in there, and he goes,
you're going to nuts.
He goes, Tuesday at midnight, you come in and work off Wednesday morning. I was up. First night, I walked out there. I got out there about 11:30. Got my car started, got everything situated. Quarter till, picked the hammock up, went 10:8. The world went 10:7 off duty. Yeah. I was like, what just happened here? So I sat there for a minute. I'm like, well, let me go down to the office, see what's going on. On the way to the office, I get a call. I was like, they're messing with me. They're like, we got a call of a horse in the road. I'm like, really? Seriously? So I go, it's a place called Carlisle. I go smoking down through there. Sure as a world, man, I about smoked this horse. Because I was like, ain't going to be no horse in the road. There was. And I got him, and he followed me down the road. And I found where the gate was wide open. He walked right in the gate, and I closed the gate. Got back in the car. And the rest of the night was uneventful. But my last thing I had to do in the mornings was sit in the school zone. Mm-hmm. And at 7:45, the light turns off. It comes on at 7:15. 7:45, it goes off. It was a 15-minute drive from there to my house. When the light quit blinking, I flipped the U-turn, 10:8 out of school zone, eased on to the house, pulled in the driveway, 10:7. This is where I learned, do not stop a car on your way home. Because you're going to add 3 hours to that shift, and they don't pay overtime. You get comp time, but not overtime. So anyway, you learn real quick working by yourself how to talk to people and when it's time to not be nice. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 classes of people. You got your nighttime people. There ain't nobody out after midnight but cops and robbers.
Everybody pay attention.
Nobody that's out after midnight is up to any good. There's something illegal is going on in that car.
Well, you got to think about it too. Think about your people that are night people.
Yeah.
The newspaper folks.
Yeah.
Your cleaning crews. But you figure out on night shift, you figure out what's normal.
Yeah.
For your night shift and what's not.
What
Like
people are actually traveling back and forth.
Like
they're
the
doing
paper
whatever
lady,
they need to do.
The paper lady was a great source of intel.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, hey, Andy his paper box is full. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh no, I go down there, he's dead.
Yeah.
I'm like,
3 weeks in the hot summer.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, we got to get a coal shovel and load him up. But that's bad. But and you got your daytime people. That's a different class of people. Then you got your afternoon and evening people. You got three types of clientele. So
He's not lying.
The good thing that I liked about working midnight, so I was by myself, but the good thing, if you got a call, it's usually a pretty good call. Mm-hmm. And I learned pretty quick how to handle myself. And if dispatch ever heard me call for backup, I need it.
Yeah.
I think I've had to do it twice. And by the time they call somebody, wake them up, man, I'm like, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in Dover County, about 15 minutes before somebody can get to you, if they're out.
It was an average of 45 minutes.
Yeah.
They would call me to back somebody up. From the time I hung the phone up, in under 2 minutes, I was pulling out of my driveway. I might show up in Tevas, Ranger panties, gun belt, and body armor, but I'm there.
Yeah.
And I could because I believe in, man, my brother's out there and needs help.
Yeah.
I was getting into this big old, he's like about 6'5", and I'm like, I'm going to have to shoot this guy. And I asked him, I said, you need to call somebody to wake him up. I need some help. Because my alternative at this point is I'm going to have to shoot him. Calls this officer that lived 2 miles away. He goes, well, does he really need me? I said, don't worry about it. I got it.
Yeah, right.
And the guy spoke Glock. He was like, oh, this guy's going to shoot me. So he laid down, and it ended well. But when I got him to jail, got the warrant served on him, got him locked down, guess where I went?
You went to that guy's house.
I was like, his wife comes to the door. She's like, hey. I was like, where's Thomas?
Get him out of bed.
Oh, no, his name's Thomas?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I was
not
like,
a good sign.
I was like, get him. I need to have a conversation. He's like, he comes to the door in his tidy whities with his T-shirt tucked in his underwear. I'm like, I thought my
That's a
dad was
sign.
the only one that did that.
Oh, man.
And he's like, what? He talks slow, man. And I said, you do that again? I said, you're going to get it. You were going to get it.
Did you use those words?
No, I did not.
I didn't.
It was not a pleasant
I'm on a
conversation.
Summary.
Yeah.
Basically, what I said was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when I started out in the mid-late 80s, and sometimes I'd work Houston County all by myself. I mean, there would only, at the max, usually there would only be like 3 of us out. And then if you had a sergeant that was taking a vacation, then another guy calls in sick,
You're-
and you were covering the whole county by yourself.
Oh, man,
Even with 3 people out, I mean, it's a stretch, to get some help, especially if you're way far on the east side of the county over around Chattahoochee. But back those days, we didn't have any radios. We didn't have any portable radios. You
Yeah.
had your radio in your car, and that was it. And we would get out on a traffic stop or a domestic. You left your window down. You take that mic. And you stretch it out there and you hang it on the spotlight right there. That way you didn't have to crawl all the way back in the car while you were getting whipped on to try to get to the mic, to get some help.
I got in a fight one night with 3 guys. They popped out of the car on me. And from the time I hit my blue lights till I had them in cuffs was 47 minutes. And it was people are like, 47. You ever been in a fight?
That's a long
5
time.
minutes.
30-second fight is
5 minutes into the
that.
thing, you're like, okay, let's just call it a draw here,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Can we have a
Just
conversation?
Call it a draw.
the first thing I lost was my radio off my belt. You can see it in the camera go zinging off into the bushes.
I'm going to tell you the story about a guy that
And
Andy and I both worked with that used to use his radio for certain things.
Yeah, and I got my gun out and just started cranking rounds.
Did it
I
work?
looked around; they were laying on the ground. I'm like, "There's no way I've shot all 3 of these." I was
aiming up.
I was
Why
like,
did
"I'm
that
a
happen?"
good shot, but there's no way." They're like, "You ain't got to kill us." I'm like, I got them cuffed, dude. I literally just sat on the pavement. I was like, dude. Finally, a city officer rolled up. I'm like, "Where'd you come from?" He's like, "I was in the office." I was like, "I didn't know you were 10-8." That's the way the city rolled back in. They'd slip into the office and sit there and play solitaire on the computer all night. But he had to help me get up. And I was completely,
Wasted
I was done. Yeah, I couldn't wipe my butt with a bed sheet at that point.
No.
But it was rough. And
Now, you were in Dover County, right?
Stewart County,
Stewart County, that's right. Not Dover County.
Dover's
Stewart
the-
County.
Dover's
Dover
the-
was in Stewart County, wasn't it?
shitty.
Yeah.
But there's good people up there, man, and it's becoming a suburb of Montgomery County because they built that 4-lane. I do not approve, but it is what it is, whatever that means. Got a call one night to come work at the SEER program they were starting.
Who called you?
Bart Combs.
I thought Terry called you.
No, Terry was the one that set it up through Mark, my other buddy that retired from 5th Group.
He's
They
talking
were-
about Terry Harris. Terry Harris.
Oh, okay.
They were-
Yeah.
they were-
Terry was a guest on our
Yeah. Terry's cool.
Mr. Personality.
Mr. Personality.
Do the weekend at Bernie's. You're like, I don't know. Are you mad at me or what's going on here?
It's,
Oh, my
it's the
God.
mustache.
That's
It's-
what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
His
yeah.
mustache.
The mustache
Man,
will
his
get you.
mustache rocks the cash box.
It's like
yeah.
that's a person within it.
yeah, it is.
He's got his own zip code.
That mustache has its own persona. You're like, that's kind of epic looking,
How do
man.
you register a mustache?
Well, we're just jealous.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm jealous of anybody that has facial hair. That's just how it goes around here.
You get a little older one day, maybe it grows.
Yeah, we'll
it'll,
see.
it'll come in eventually. But just what we were talking about, man, my mind.
Terry
Bart-
Harris.
Bart-
Terry-
Yeah, it just
Bart
left him.
Combs.
So
Yeah.
Bart
Bart
Combs
Combs.
called you. Yeah.
So I'm sitting backed up against Subway, still in their Wi-Fi on my tough book, and I was watching YouTube videos. And I was messing around. My phone rings. I usually don't answer numbers I don't know. I let it go to voicemail. I answered, and the guy introduced himself. And I was like, I don't know you.
This was Bart.
Yeah. I was like, I write you a ticket or take you to jail or something. He's like, no, you come highly recommended. He told me what was going on. I was like, I get to work with soldiers again. I said, that's because something's kind of missing. I love the Army. If it was the way as I got out that it was when I was a private, I'd have done 30 years because I love that structured environment. I love that. I ate it up. And I went home. That was when I was working 7 to 3. I was a cover car and kind of not the official shift supervisor, but I was the cover car from 7 to 3 because you got that lag at the shift change. And it's all, without fail, somebody's going to be a little late or somebody's going to check off early. You're going to catch a call. So I was the cover car. I got off at 3 o'clock in the morning, went home, woke my wife up. I'm like, hey, I got a job interview at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's 3. She goes, what? I said, it's in Huntsville. She sat up. She goes, Huntsville? Alabama? I said, yeah. That ain't Huntsville, Texas. can't make that. But she's like, and I told her, she's like, well, okay.
So you grabbed a monster.
I was about to say, you better start
Probably
driving.
grabbed his third monster.
I grabbed a couple monsters.
Yeah.
I had a problem with those things there for a while. But
We'll get into that in a minute.
A meth
Yeah.
in a
drove to Huntsville, and I get down there. First time I've been to Alabama, I buried one of my buddies that got killed in the crash. He's from Andalusia. And I got to looking, I'm like, man, that's like 20 minutes from the house. So I go see his grave, go by there and pour one out for my boy, It was a great guy, man. Chris Henson, just a super, super guy. He didn't come no better. But second time I've ever been to Alabama, went to Huntsville, and I just pulled over in Hooters parking lot and called him. I said, this is where I don't know. I didn't know nothing about, that's before you had all that neat nav stuff.
GPS stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your phone's like, you're in Alabama. I'm like, I know that. Where, But it's flip phone days. And had a job interview at Hooters. If you ever have to do a job interview, go to Hooters.
Did they have any orange shorts that fit you?
They do.
Oh, that's an image.
And
Yeah, wow. Thanks,
I
Andy.
rock those orange shorts, man.
Why are you
like
getting up, Thomas?
So
I'm walking away. It's
it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
You're all right.
Anyway, I got hired based on my military stuff and my shooting background and all that, because I was hired to be a marksmanship instructor. Well, fast forward, I started getting into not good health, was having health problems, things were going on. And I knew from being the paramedic that one of the symptoms of diabetes was extreme thirst. Your urine has a strong smell because it's ketoacidosis. Your body's venting that stuff off. And I was like, I need to have my sugar checked, My sugar was like 230. Doctor's like, you're pre-diabetic. Drink water. I'm like, all right. Fast forward. I was in Walmart. I don't go to Walmart no more because this is where the doom started. The big signs hanging out in Walmart that say like ladies apparel, or you can see them from space. Well, I'm at the gun counter. I could see the 6 foot to the gun counter, and I just having to look across the store. Everything was blurry. I'm like, what in the world's going on? I called my wife. I'm like, hey, my vision's blurry. It just hit me all of a sudden. She's like, well, go down and see Dr. Bender. Great eye doctor in Enterprise. Give him a plug. But I walked in there. He run like 100 tests. He's scratching his head. He's like, be right back. So he comes back, pokes my finger, checks my blood sugar. He's like, be right back. I'm like, okay. He comes in there and he goes, hey, your blood sugars, it was 700. I think it was 742.
That's high.
I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
not good.
742. Because I understand how that monster works. And I said, well, I'll make an appointment to go to the doctor. He goes, I've already called. They're waiting on you.
Oh, yeah.
So I get in my truck and drive over to the doctor's office there at the hospital.
Hold on a second. Stop. You mean to tell me you can't see? You have
He's already
Hey,
driven
man,
to the doctor's
he's already
office from
driven to the
Walmart.
doctor's office.
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Walmart.
yeah.
I made it from Walmart through Enterprise traffic to the doctor's.
Your doctor says, I've got you somebody to see right now because your sugar is well over 700. No,
Yeah.
hey, go drive over here.
I am a high functioning, I'm not going to say it, but I'm high functioning on a lot of things.
Okay.
So strong like bull, I said it before, smart like tractor. So I was like, I go walking in, they're like waiting on me. They're like, they took me straight back, and she runs a test. I pee in a cup, all the good stuff. She's like, she's like, I can't believe I'm sitting here talking to you. I was like, I drove over here.
Yeah.
She's like, well, you ain't leaving here driving. I was like, you hide and watch.
You hide and watch.
Well, wife shows up.
Guess that stopped that. didn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, so that altered.
If you don't know Marcus's wife, and obviously you probably don't, she is an experienced former MMA fighter.
Oh, wow.
So
And she's got the meanest to go with
Tune
it.
him up.
Yeah,
You weren't
so
leaving.
Marcus is going to listen to
Yeah,
her.
you weren't leaving.
I'm gonna tell you this.
That's why he wears a cap, because he got knocked.
I got dents in my head. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. And I'll tell you why I got a dent in my head. But among other things. But where was I? Yeah, okay. So wife gets there and the doctor's explaining. I'm like, okay, I know there's things I can't eat and all this. And she's going down the list. I'm like, that's a short list.
What you can't eat or what you can eat?
What I can eat. I'm like, the can't eat list was massive. I'm like, that's everything I eat. So I buckled down, man, because it scared me, and I beat it. And here's how I found out. I was deep sea fishing with a buddy I grew up with, retired from the Navy. He lives over in Georgia, just sub base over there. He's got a big offshore boat, and I go over fishing with him all the time. And we're 120 miles out on the Atlantic shelf, where it goes from a couple hundred feet to over 1,000. And we were on the mahi. We got into them, man, on the weed line. And I was like, just locked up. My skin felt like it was on fire. Now, me and my buddy have a history. Every time we take a hunting or fishing trip, something catastrophic happens.
Oh man!
And you keep going.
And you gotta push through,
press
man.
through.
And I'll get to that pushing through, because I broke the sheriff's record. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So, and I was like my jaw was locked up, and with every rod was just smacking. Mahi were blowing up. Best, you could not have asked for a better trip.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
Minus the passing out.
and I'm
you're not.
going down, and he's like, don't do this to me now. And he's like,
I got a big one.
yeah, and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
slinging him in the boat. My son's running around. He's like, Dad, I was like, get the rod. I'm like, so I checked my sugar, and it was like 10. I don't know. I was.
Oh my
Too
gosh.
So my jaw was locked. I couldn't eat nothing. The
Oh, no.
only thing that I was managed to drink a bottle of regular Gatorade, because that's pure sugar.
Yeah.
I got that in me, and within about 5 minutes, I'm like, man, what the? Let's get back to fishing. They're like, we're 20 miles. We drifted 20 miles off the weed bed. Off
Yeah,
that
right,
Weed line,
'cause-
trying to, and
Yeah.
it just, that's one of the things. That's how our trips go. Well, I called the doctor, because you have no phone service out there. Your HF radio you're out there. Something happens, all you got your EPIRB, and hope to God somebody. Here's another thing about an EPIRB: people that fish offshore. If you activate that,
They
the
will
launch
come.
time for the rescue is based off water temperature. Okay? So if the water temperatures, we'll say 80 degrees, your survival time floating in 80-degree water might be, we'll say 55 minutes, just throwing a number out there.
It's a little bit longer than that, but not much.
Yeah. It's around an hour.
Yeah.
They won't launch till that hour has expired.
Oh my goodness.
And I found
They want to do a recovery.
well, here's the thing.
Yeah, obviously.
So many monkeys get out there and get to play with them and hit the boom button, you know.
Yeah.
And they were spinning up and getting out there. The Coast Guard's ripping, man, and whatever they got, boat, helicopter, whatever, they get there.
Nothing's
and they're like,
going
oh, sorry, accident, didn't
Yeah.
mean.
Oh,
So they were
man.
having so many false. Well, that's the thing. And I'm like, Bruce is like, it's going to be an hour before anybody gets here.
Oh no.
You can't die on me right now. And it scared him to death, scared me. And I got back, called my doctor. She's like, quit taking your meds. I went and seen her. I beat it. Just off diet, taking care of myself. I
The
was like,
medicine was making it even
Let's
lower.
step out for a second.
and they took me off everything. And are we taking a break? What are we doing here?
No, keep talking. Keep talking.
So I beat it. I'm like, made it yeah, man, I've done this. And my clutch slipped a little bit, and I went back to eating things probably shouldn't have been eating. And I had it whipped, man, and was doing good. Started on the monsters and back on the eating. I love ramen.
Oh yeah.
I ate so much ramen in the Army. Mix it up with the MRE, man. It's just good. But I just started, and then I started noticing I was having problems, and I was a big boy. I was weighing 265, but I was call it fit 265 because I could run down 20-year-old kids in the woods.
Oh, yeah,
still, and could get up a wall. I could do all kinds of neat stuff. And you remember, I could fit through pipes.
Yeah,
And,
we talked about that one day, man. That pipe was
it's a
something else for
nightmare.
me
Man.
and you.
They're like, I don't know if we're gonna fit, Andy.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, was it 22-inch pipe?
22-inch pipe. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And if
I
you
told him that day that when I went through
this
that
is
pipe.
this is 36 inches right here. So do the math.
Grease
when I
them
went
up.
through that pipe, you either drug your ruck or you
Yeah.
pushed it.
Yeah.
And I pushed mine, and I grabbed that corrugated pipe and pull myself
Yep.
through and push my ruck.
That's the only
pull
way.
it through. And
That's
the next
smart.
day, I woke up the next morning, and my abs.
Oh,
I never
that's
felt anything in my abs.
Feel like you've
that
done
day.
5,000 crunches, and you're like,
Oh my gosh.
it's a yeah.
It was pretty bad.
It was. So I went from I was a big boy, but I was in good shape. I could run, do on break contact, run with body armor, all them kids. It hotter and blazes 3 feet from the sun, and got to where I started. Fast forward, this took years of going through, and the doctor I was going to put me on metformin and some other stuff. And metformin's toxic. It's just a horrible thing to put in your body.
Most medicine is.
And there's holistic methods that I think work better. I'm not a doctor, but talking to people that tried them and they swear by them. But I would go to the doctor. I'm like, Doc, I lost 100 pounds in a month and a half. That ain't.
Oh yeah.
That is a major red flag.
either you found something,
Yeah.
or there's something
Yeah.
wrong.
I got a tapeworm. I don't know what's going on, and I was gassed all the time. I just couldn't do nothing. And I go to the doctor. Well, he prescribed me more metformin. So, and hold that thought. We might have to get me back on that in a minute. When I woke up out of that coma, and we'll get there, a lot of people were calling me. Don't you do that to us again. You scared us like I meant to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Watch this, y'all.
They're like,
This will be fun, everybody.
You need to take your medicine. It got to the point where there were some people I let get away with it just because they're brothers, but they were worried about me.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I'm like, you preempt this and do not say this to this guy because you're going to get an earful.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, and he had me up to 2,000 milligrams of metformin at bedtime. So that's in my body while I'm trying to sleep. And the toxic level of that stuff was destroying my kidneys and my liver. I was taking my medicine. I was eating good. It just, the medicine was causing more harm than anything. And it got to the point where I couldn't get, I would stick my finger. I'm like, 2:30. I'm like, why? I'm taking my medicine. I'm drinking water. I quit drinking beer on my birthday months before this happened.
Yeah.
I just got tired. It's like I just walked away from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Like
You
we're
know, I
just
was
gonna
like-
give this up.
I was like, I'm done. And
Okay. Yeah. Go do what you gotta do.
roll, man. But it got, people were like, "Hey, you take your medicine." I was like, I am. I was taking my meds, doing everything what I thought I was told to do by a medical professional. And the 15th of April, so that's the last day for taxes,
Right.
right? That was a Monday. The 14th, I was at my buddy Scott's in Tennessee. That's where I stay when I go up there. And his wife Annie,
This is last recent
this-
episode you had.
Yeah. And this now I was on a digression for months, probably 2 or 3 years. I was slowly my body was, I'm a shell of a former guy, you know? And I got down to where every piece of clothing I had just fell off. I looked awful. I go to work, everybody's like, "Oh man, are you okay?" I'm like, I know I look bad. Is it that bad? You know? And I shaved my beard off one day. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, what is
You really look sick
yeah,
now,
it was
right?
bad, man." And when I go up there, Annie, Scott's wife, she is just greatest. She sanitized her house of all carbohydrates. She's like, "You are not dying on my watch." And like, is just the most awesome cook on the planet. Probably Erica and her would be neck and neck with the quality of food they put out. And I would be trying to sneak a little bite of mac and cheese or something. And boy, she's a school teacher. I call her school marm. I'm like, how's that school marming going? So they're from Pennsylvania, super people. She'd be like, you cannot have that. I'm like, I was just looking at it, and I got a spoonful of it. I mean, she would hawk me, but and people don't realize that I was like, I'm in good hands when I'm up there, because she's like, check your sugar.
Yeah, yeah.
Drinks here. Here's a bottle of water. You
Right.
know,
She's making sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
she's like, because they just got their house built. She goes, you are not dying in my new house. Well, that's where they found me.
Oh man.
So dial back to the 14th, the night of the 14th. I was supposed to come back
What
down
month
here.
was this? April?
This is April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposed to come back down here for work Monday. And I was going to leave Sunday. And I was just, the whole week I was up there, man, I was like, I just didn't feel good. I was like, man, I got a cold again. The COVID.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, man, I feel like crap. And I had gone up there to sow some grass where they'd done work on my road and stuff on my property. All I got done, I managed to get my razor unloaded and my trailer dropped with the grass seed and everything on. I was like, I'll come back this evening when it cools off and finish. Didn't make it. I was like, I'll go back in the morning. Didn't make the whole week of this. Now, to put you kind of in the driver's seat of my mindset, how I was doing things, when I woke up, I went for like 12, maybe 20 hours without my phone. It was the best time of my life. I was with my wife. It was just me and her. I didn't have no phone. I just got on Instagram here just a few weeks ago for the first time since. But I learned real quick. I'm like, I don't care about social media. It don't pay my bills.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so I got on there and checked my bank account, and I'm like, oh my God, I have been scammed. I am missing thousands of dollars. So I didn't know what it was. My wife's like, she's on the phone with the bank all in, just tearing this guy to pieces over the phone. And he's like, ma'am, I could hear it. Do you own a Toyota Tacoma? And my wife's like, well, yeah, my husband does. He's like, okay, there's your truck payments. Here's the way my mind was working. I have no recollection of this because I was looking. There was like 6 payments. One was like $15.37. Just a weird number. One was like $3,000 and something.
Whoa.
There was no rhyme. They're all.
Were you
I
at
could show
least
you.
making them to principal?
It was. I was just,
Yeah, right.
Apparently, I was just sitting there, let me make another payment, and I have no memory of this.
Really?
And I was driving around, seeing dangerous, man. And I was like, oh my Lord. I was like, here's how weird it was. Guess what my balance I owed on my truck was when I was done doing that mess? I owed $23 on
Oh
my
my gosh.
And
You're
I
like,
was
I'm going
like-
to take care of this thing.
I'm like, oh my
Go ahead and pay
goodness.
this off.
And it's
Blessing and a curse at the same time.
yeah, I was like, and my wife's like, what? I was like, I didn't do that. Apparently I did because it came from my phone. Anyway, so I got back. I was like, let me pay my truck off. Well, the app wouldn't let me make a $23 payment.
Oh my
It wanted
gosh.
and my truck payment was only like $175 because I traded my Duramax in on it. They done me right on a broke down Duramax, but I was like, and it wanted the full payment, and they wouldn't let me make a $23 payment. I had to call the bank, and I'm like, will you pay my truck off? She looked up. She goes, $23. I said, yeah. She's like, sure. So I had to call the bank because the app wouldn't let
Holy
me.
cow.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was getting mad.
So you were out of it and you were doing all this.
I was, and I have zero. There, people are talking about, hey man, I'm glad you come to see me. I was like,
So like what happened? Like what happened? Why? What?
so
The 14th was the last day that you were like,
that Sunday, the 14th, I hit the wall, man. I was like, Scott, and he's a cancer survivor. He had leukemia. If you have leukemia, you want the one he had. 5 IV treatments.
wow.
And he's been back. He's had a couple more treatments, but he's doing really good. His numbers are good. He's Lord's with him, and he's got some good folks praying over him. Great guy. I was like, man. I said, will you run me over to Paris to the ER? He's like, yeah, buddy, get in the truck. Now this guy gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning, goes to Fort Campbell. He paints helicopters, and I worked with him in law enforcement for years. And he was our chief deputy for a while, and then he went on and retired and got a job out there on post. But I said, dude, I know you get up. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I said, I hate to ask you, but I don't feel right driving. I said, can you carry me over?
This is the point where you said,
I was like,
I'm not going to
"Something's-
drive anymore.
Yeah, something's not, yeah. And I don't think they would have let me. Scott's like, absolutely, buddy, get in the truck. So he runs me over. I go in and check in. This little 12-year-old looking doctor comes back there. He's like, what's your problem? I'm like, something is wrong with me. And all my meter, when I put my finger, it just said high.
Wow.
So there's
It was
little,
off the scale.
yeah. So the little ones you buy in the store, they either go to 300 or 500. Some of them go higher. And I think the one I had went to 500. And then after that, it just says high. And I told him, I said, I need labs done, man. Something's wrong with me. Something is going to happen. And I told him, I said, my buddy that brought me here, I said, I've lost a ton of weight. At this time, I weighed about 180.
Wow.
From when the bad weight loss started, I was about 245.
And how tall are you?
6 foot. And
Yeah, so you're not supposed to be 180.
No, that's I ain't weighed 180 pounds since I was in like 7th grade. And I'm the smallest male in my family.
Yeah.
It's weird. But be back here talking to me, and I was like, yeah, my buddy out in the truck, I said, he had leukemia, and he lost rapid weight like I did. I said, but I'm diabetic. And he goes, sir, this is not an oncology department. And I was like, no. And I was like, really? I said, I just need to check my labs, man. So they used the thing and checked my blood sugar. They gave me a 4-unit shot of insulin, which is like nothing.
Oh, really?
For where my sugar was. And they put in my paperwork, my sugar was like 300 something, which is still cause for concern. But I had all the symptoms of ketoacidosis.
Huh.
I had thrown up. I met the criteria to be admitted to the hospital. Had he have done that night, hey man, let's put you in the bed, let's get this ironed out, I would not have had to experience any of this stuff.
No way.
So he kicked me to the curb. I should have brought the paperwork because nobody's going to believe me. Reason for visit, anxiety. I was like, no, that's not why I was there.
I'm
Then
diabetic. You told him.
He goes, the more I spoke with the patient, the more anxietal he become. I'm like, that's not anxiety. That's called anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we had some words.
Yeah.
And they booted me. 8 hours later, I was circling the drain. Literally 8-9 hours later. And the running joke, our sheriff at the
ambulance
time.
true up then.
Yeah, our sheriff, former sheriff up there, he's retired. It was a running joke. Don't ever send him to check on anybody because every welfare check he done, he found they were dead.
Oh gosh.
So everybody's like, do not ever send Derek to check on me. Who did they send to check on me?
Yeah.
Derek.
Yeah.
Walks in there. I'm laying in the bed. He's like, he calls dispatch. He's like, hey, this is not good.
Oh wow.
And I had bruises where he was trying to get a pulse. He said, I never did get a pulse on you at all. They put me on like a scoop and carried me out and put me in an ambulance. And we've transported hundreds of people to Clarksville Hospital because we don't have a hospital out there. And we tried once, intubate, it don't work. I mean, there's nothing we can do in that ambulance that's going to help you at that point other than just keep
Throw
air
and go.
going in you.
Right. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
And there's no golden hour out there. And we don't fly people that are in that condition because they don't make it. That's just a wasted helicopter trip. They got me intubated. I know both the guys who picked me up. I know them, small county. They got me intubated and bagged me all the way to the ER. When I got there, they were doing something. Apparently, I came to life in there. I broke out of the restraints.
Oh wow.
I seen a video and some pictures. I look like Wolverine coming off that chair. You know,
wow.
Apparently, I hurt some people and hurt some feelings and broke some stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And because you just get that superhuman thing going, and then
I've seen it.
I have too.
Many times.
I'm like, this guy, why is he so strong? And it was that, I'm like, oh, this guy's got to be a diabetic or something.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I don't remember that. But I went into the coma. I was on a ventilator, man, and I seen a thing that thing was running 9-0. Just it was trying to purge
Oh wow.
all the gas and bad stuff out of my system. It was like 200 breaths per minute. That thing just it's going.
Wow.
And I'm like, that in itself looks like it would kill you. I have memories of stuff, but it's not memories of stuff that was going on in the room. It was things like I talked about. I think it was the first show. It was like being in a really bright environment, but it was like an inviting place. Like I told you, best way I can describe it's like
last time you said
a hug from your grandma, man, that that's passed away, and it's that kind of that. It's like I want to stay here.
Yeah. So that point when Derek showed up, didn't find a pulse, to when you made it in the hospital,
It was probably about an hour and 45 minutes of
you were gone at that point.
Yeah, and the doctor's like, you were clinically dead. I'm like, I did not need to hear that, but they've associated my memory problems, and I still have some speech issues with my lack of oxygen, which here's like, it should come back. I'm like, should.
Yeah.
I want to
what's
answer.
the should? Yeah.
I want to answer, man. I mean, I should hit the bullseye, but here's why I missed.
Yeah.
I want an answer.
Right.
But I woke up, and it was like, I can remember looking around. I'm like, because last thing I remember that morning about 4 o'clock, Scott was leaving.
Here, real quick, get on that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. I want everybody to hear this.
Last thing I remember was that Monday morning about 4, Scott was leaving to go to work. And I was on the couch. He's like, hey, buddy, see you in a few hours. I'm like, and I had called work. I'm like, I'm going to the hospital. I'm going to take a couple of days off. Something's wrong. This was a Sunday. Okay, just get better. Well, last thing I remember was Scott walking out the door, and fast forward, I'm in a room, and I'm like,
What's going on?
So what happened? Did Scott try to call and check on you? You didn't
Well,
answer?
And I always wondered, I'm like, why is my wife aggravating the daylights out of me every time I'm up here? And Annie, Scott's wife, they're all like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, hanging a tree stand.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Y'all pestering me. But it's them checks and balances that my wife had put in, because she knew I was having sugar problems. And apparently I was texting her, because she gets up at 4 to go open her shop in Midland City, Warrior Nutrition.
Oh, okay.
So, and I had answered her, and then I stopped answering her. And at some point, I left the couch and made it to the bed, and I don't remember none of that, but they found me on the bed. But it was me not answering the text. My wife's like, because she could see my location. She's like, I know he's still at Scott's, and he don't leave his phone there. So she started down her call list and got to Derek, who was mowing his grass. And he's a diabetic also, our former sheriff. Great guy, super guy. Thank God he stopped mowing and got in his truck and drove over there. If he'd have finished mowing, because his yard looks like Leland Stadium in Tennessee, it's massive. And he had just started. If he'd have finished mowing his grass, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Wow. He's like, I'll run over and check on him. Well, I'm so glad he did.
Yeah.
But I broke his streak. He found somebody that didn't die. I was like, I took that away from you.
Yeah.
So I broke it.
There you go.
But, and like me and my wife were talking last night. She's like, there's things like when I woke up, I wanted to talk to Derek and Lucas. Lucas, I watched him grow up since he was a little kid. His dad's a Vietnam vet, and he's a diabetic also. We could kind of run together, diabetic crew. And I wanted to talk to those two guys, and my wife was kind of like after the crash, there's things I just didn't want to tell her because I wanted to spare her that memory of how close.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's on video, so she watched it. She's like, "Oh my God!" But there's things that you feel better talking to your brothers about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I didn't want my wife was tore up, and I will tell her this: she has not been away from me a night since this happened. And
so you went into like a diabetic coma.
Yeah, my blood
That's
sugar
what it
was
was.
997 when they got me to the ER.
You couldn't break 1,000?
That's what I was like 3
Loser.
points.
So close.
I had this
So
one
close.
nurse. She goes, "You're a nerd." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "You couldn't break 1,000."
Loser.
I'm like, I tried. You
Now,
know,
is the safe level is like what, 100?
70 to 130 is a normal range.
Yeah.
So I was like, did I break a record? They're like, they've actually had one that was almost 2,000.
Oh
I
my
could not
gosh! And they
imagine.
made it. They lived through it.
Well, here's the thing. When I woke up, we went through this butt sniffing stage, I'll call it. This young girl's looking at me. I'm like, who are you? Do I owe you money?
What are you doing here?
Like,
Why
what's
are you
going on?
talking to me like I know you? I was like, I said, where's my wife? Where am I? My wife's like, I'm over here. I'm like, what are we doing? Where am I? I was like, and after I got through that, the nurse is like, we need to discuss some things you might find disturbing. I was like, what is more disturbing than this conversation we just had? She showed me pictures and videos, and I was mortified. I was like, that is not me. Of me destroying the trauma 3. I tore that place up.
Wow.
I was like, can you take me down there? I need to apologize to these people. They didn't have to show up for work that day. It was a Monday. They could have called in.
Yeah.
You know, they were there. They done their job. I got nothing bad to say about it. Love them all. I said, you please take me down there so I can apologize. They're like, they don't want to see you unless you're unconscious.
Yeah.
So I don't like stuff in my mouth. Like I have a brushing my teeth, man, is a chore because it just gags me. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it's a grind, man.
You like being intubated, huh?
This lady brought in this little wire, had a thing on it. She's gonna run it back down my throat to keep my temperature because I had a little fever apparently. And my wife's over there. She's like, and I had done pulled the tube out a couple of times, they had me on fentanyl. I was mad. I was like, you had me on what?
Fentanyl.
They had me on 3 narcotics, rotating them so I wouldn't get addicted to. I was so mad when I was like, you put what in my body? I'm still sore about that. I was like, anything but fentanyl. I said, shoot some THC in me or something. I don't need no fentanyl. That stuff kills people. But I was on the max dose of all that stuff you could be on without dying in a medical setting. And they're like, he's sedated. My wife, and she was going to run that thing down my throat. After I pulled, they had a backup tube in my nose. I pulled that thing out. I was ripping stuff out.
Oh.
I couldn't. It just subconsciously, man. My body's like, no.
Yeah.
And I got pictures. So I'm strapped to a bed. I got boxing gloves on. Apparently, I'm the Clarksville bantamweight champion. So I got boxing gloves. I'm strapped to the bed. I'm intubated and all this. And she was gonna run that little. It's like a 22 gauge wire with a little ball on the end, just gonna feed it down. And my wife's like, he's not gonna like that. She's like, he's sedated. My wife's like, I'm telling you, he's not gonna like it. She's like, we got this. She got it about that far in my mouth. Boy, I sat up off that bed, and it was fentanyl was on a pump. They'd only give you so much so often, like a morphine thing. You could see her, because I was like, coming off there. I'm like, and I was completely out of it.
Wow.
And finally, it beeped, and I was like, right back down. She started to do it again. I was like,
Like trying, yeah.
and she's like, and my wife's like, just stop.
Wow.
Just, let's do it the other way. Not
Yeah.
recommended.
Yeah. So all of that happened. You made it.
Yeah.
You lived through it.
And that's what I was getting ready to say. There was people would come by and like peep in the curtain. I'm like, "Who? You my new nurse? Who are you?" Like, we just wanted to look at you.
Want to see the monster?
I was like, oh yeah. And my nurse that I woke up to, Megan, she was awesome. She was the only nurse that would work with me. Everybody was scared because apparently I have a violent streak. But she's like, I got him. I'll take him. She's just the sweetest thing ever. I had some good nurses, except for one. She was from the Philippines or Thailand or somewhere. And either she was deaf or just ignored me. I don't know which.
Yeah.
But that's all. I'm not going to throw her under the bus. She was sweet, but yeah. But Megan's like, I'll work with him. And she was awesome, man. Upbeat, and the people were coming up there, and I'm like, why are all these people peeping in my curtain? I said, are you here for something, They're like, we just want to look at you. I'm like, I ain't much to look at right now. And they're like, no, we never seen anybody that we could come up here and talk to the way you come in, how you did. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
They're like, no, it's a thing.
Like you don't.
Like I had doctors coming up there like, You know, I was
Yeah,
like,
like,
You live.
what you live? What was that? What was
Yeah.
that like? Yeah.
yeah, they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Well, my throat feels like somebody took a boar brush." And
Yeah.
I said, "I do not recommend intubation."
Yeah.
2024, and that's where we're at with modern medical science. That is, it saved my
Yeah.
life, but there's got to be a better way.
Right,
man.
right.
Holy
Somebody
crap.
figure it out.
Oh, it was just, and they said it's where I kept trying to rip it out. It
Yeah.
just ate, but I
That
don't.
makes sense.
But I do not recommend that. And I changed my voice. I sound like Larry the Cable Guy and Oscar the Grouch had a love child. And my wife's like, "You sound like Larry the Cable Guy." I'm like, "Will you stop saying that?" And like they could hear us out the nurse station because I was right in front of the nurse. They put me on the floor first off, where they take people on feeding tubes that are on their way out. Mm-hmm. The first night I was in there, 4 people passed away.
Oh, my
My
gosh.
wife was losing her mind.
Oh, I bet she's
She's
was.
like, "Is there another floor we can go to? This is bad."
Yeah, let's not put him
Other
here.
than the death floor.
Yeah, we don't
So-
want to be here.
When I woke up, they're like, "Oh my!" Like people want to come up here and see me, and they're like, "Get some rest." And no, not in the hospital.
No.
And just about the time you're about to nod off, they get you from the grassy knoll, man. They come in there, and you're like, "Oh, come on, man!" But
Yeah.
it was surreal because that people were just mystified that they could come in there and talk to me after coming in. Like they're like, "We've never had somebody within 72 hours come up here and
Be that
have
far
a
gone.
conversation." Yeah,
Yeah.
have a
Yeah, right,
conversation
right.
with.
If they did come back, they probably weren't in the kind of mental state you were.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't testify to how good my mental acuity was at that point, but my filter was gone.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I was talking loud because I feel like I had fluid in my ears. I feel like I need to talk loud. And my wife's like, "You need to tone it down a little bit because you were saying." I'm like, "What?" And at that point, like when I woke up, I stayed up for like the next 48 hours. I didn't want to go back to sleep. I want to talk to everybody.
yeah.
And
Wow.
nurses would come in there and like, poke and prod. And I'm like, "Oh, here's the deal. I work for pudding cups because I couldn't drink water. You would think water would go down smooth. It was like drinking broken glass. And that pudding, I could just kind of milk it down. So that's
Yeah.
how I was getting my moisture.
It basically
through
melts in your
IV
mouth.
And,
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
my first nurse, I'm like, "Hey, you come in here to do something, you bring a pudding cup. I work for pudding cup." She's like, "Okay, sweetie." So she bring me a sugar-free snack pack.
Like a dog with a
Yeah.
treat.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like-
What's that, buddy?
good boy.
Put it in the cheese. You're
Yeah.
like, "Eat it," you know. And because they were grinding up some of my meds and that, because I couldn't. I've never been ever had a problem swallowing a pill. I'd put them with a little bitty aspirin. I'm like, it's just my body's like nothing's going back down.
No, yeah. After all that, it's
Yeah.
traumatized.
It really was. So by the time I checked out of there, every nurse that walked in there was bringing me 2 pudding cups at a time. I left there with like a Dollar General bag full of pudding cups.
Now you're probably like, I don't ever want to see a pudding cup.
If
again.
you put a vanilla
No,
pudding cup
he'll
in
eat
front
it.
of me, I would execute you.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I would shoot you somewhere in the groin. So, but anyway, I had a lot of time to reflect. They say time is your enemy. Time is your friend and your enemy. The
Depends on how you use it. Right?
It is, exactly. Like days are long, years are short. And right in front of my face was this clock on the wall. I'm like, that thing is going backwards. I was like, it was just like time stood still. They say time stops in the ICU. It really does. And I understand how that works now after being on that side of it. But I kept having thoughts. I'm like, I had a conversation with a guy who is deceased. And like, we're having a conversation right now. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And it was one of those conversations.
He was deceased while you were having the conversation. I mean,
He'd been dead for years.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
He'd been
okay.
dead for years. And me and him we've set stuff on fire around the world. Great guy, man, but just not somebody you want to go out on the town with because you're probably going to be running from the law or, I mean, just Larry gets you in trouble, man. And it's just how he rolled. And my wife come in there, she goes, "Who is Larry Swafford?"
Oh.
I'm like, where'd you hear that name? She goes, you're talking to somebody named. I was like, what? I got to thinking. Then I started remembering. We were talking like we're talking right now. He's like, what are you doing? You know, I was like, I don't know where it was. I was like in a weird place.
Yeah. You were having these conversations with a dead guy while you were sedated or kind of out of it.
Yeah. And that was, I can remember, I can put kind of the timelines comes together because I can remember being in that warm place where I'm like, this is a nice place, man. Huh. It's but I don't want to stay here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I knew this is not a place that I was like, I wouldn't come back from.
Right.
I was like, hey, I gotta go. I got things to do, you know. And then I remember having that conversation with Larry, and I still have dreams about talking to it. It's weird. Huh. It's hard to explain, but was it my subconscious, you know, part of my brain, just like when you go in REM sleep, your brain's rebooting, you know, was that what it was? Was it more than that? Right. No idea. I can't explain, I can't put into words how that feeling went.
Yeah.
What did he tell you?
I can't say how because that guy's got no filter either.
Try to paraphrase.
I mean, it's just, he's like, and it, like, we're having a secret conversation in the room. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, you can't come down and party like you used, you know. And it was like a attaboy speech. Hey man, you need to pick yourself up, quit doing the things you're doing. Huh. It was like a change your life speech.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
He's like, man, he goes, you're better off. And it was weird because I'm like, it's what, a life coach of all people. This guy's giving me.
You're gonna
life
tell me,
yeah. But it was just generalizations like that. And he's like, man, you need to change up things, and I was like, that's when I like. When I woke up, I'm like, I did not want to see I could have murdered. When my buddy brought my phone, I'm like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
That was like the most peaceful time I've had in years. And I done really good. I stayed off social media for a long time. It was Instagram. And finally, I got on there one day just to kind of catch, because there's funny stuff on there.
Yeah.
Y'all seen the video I showed you earlier with Allison one. Just stuff like that, man, just cracks me up.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
And I get on there, and then a few minutes into it, 30 minutes, hour, I'm like, oh, it just turns me off, and I'm done for a few days.
Right.
And it's just, everybody's talking about this, like somebody said that the Elon and Trump thing was going to be on Rumble. I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I don't got that on my TV app.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's like X. I'm like, that's a Twitter thing.
And
they named off like 6 platforms. So I was like, I've heard of Facebook and Instagram, and I don't know. That's the 2 big things I know. And I know not much about Facebook because I ain't on that. My wife is.
Well, you know, there's I know we don't have a whole lot of time with you left. Well, actually, I think we're over time for you, but because we want to make sure we honor what you got to go somewhere too. But I want to touch on real quick. You know, we had a men's breakfast the other day, and one of the guys talked about being alive for a time such as this. And you know, it sounds like that's you. You're alive for a time such as this. You should have. You should not be here.
No, not at all. Absolutely. And, that doctor came in there, and I'm like, he goes, we should not be having a conversation, because when we would take them up there, when I worked on the ambulance part time, we just drop them off, let them call it, notify next of kin, because there's nothing we can do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he's like, he goes, we are just going through your labs and trying to figure out. I'm like, I'm tough, man. You know, but it ain't about being tough, man. I really believe the Lord brought me back, and I had a lot of people praying for me. And Annie would come in there. She's like, she'd throw down that Catholic, man, hardcore. And the holy water. She had some holy water.
Oh, yeah.
They brought back from overseas and had it blessed. She was like,
whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
I mean, I'm telling you, that woman, I cannot, she is just an angel. My wife, everybody, man, was just so good. And Annie, man, she's still throwing up an email for me every day. I was like, I appreciate you.
Well, you and I had a conversation, and I apologize for stepping out. We thought we had an emergency at the house.
You're fine.
But you and I had a conversation after all that took place because I thought you were gone, man.
Oh yeah,
I did. I even called Andy. I was like,
Yeah.
man, it don't look good.
Oh yeah, we were all praying for you.
Work
You
had
know?
done wrote me off. They're like, he's gone. Go ahead and clean his locker.
My church was praying for you.
Yeah.
My little boy was praying for you.
That
I mean,
I was getting my dark suit cleaned.
Paxton, my buddy.
and
I want everybody to wear bib overalls to my funeral.
one thing that bothered, not bothered me, but I wanted to know where you were, with your heart, with your soul. And I said, you and I are going to have a talk.
Yeah.
Once you get out of the hospital, once I realized you were okay.
Yeah,
And you told me, you said, Eric, I'm good. I'm good. And you
Damn.
kind of relayed some stuff to
Yeah.
me, and it made me realize, all right, he had a moment.
like I've always believed in God, and just that's the way I was raised. And after going through something like this, you see the power, and you've got to, like we talked about on the first that commitment thing. You see the power. If you're willing to do that commitment, you have to do that and accept that. If you don't accept him, you're on the road to nowhere, man. You're on the road to doom, and people don't understand. We've gotten so far away from Christ that society, you see it every day. When somebody is being affirmed for an office, and they're like, "Can you define what a woman is?" And they go, "Well, that could mean several things."
No.
Get your 5th grade biology book and read it. It's just stuff like, I can get
Yeah,
down
we
the
get
rabbit
off on
hole
a
on
tangent
this
on
one.
that. So,
Man,
yeah.
it burns me up. And I don't, do you? Do you? I ain't got nothing against, I harbor no ill feelings. There's people I used to just hate. I don't hate them. I forgive them
No.
for being the way they are. And to me, there's people, I could shoot them in the face, lay down, take a nap with a clear conscience. I forgive them for being the way they are. And that was like taking a rucksack off after a road march.
Well, that's a blessing to be able to be like that.
Power, and I've heard it, but the power to forgive, I think, is the greatest weapon we have
Oh yeah.
for our connection with God and our fellow man. That's just how I feel about that. Because there's people that I'm like, I call one guy, I'm like, "Hey man," he's like, "What?" I said, "Hey, I forgive you, man." Oh, that burned him. Burned him, son. Burn him.
Yeah.
But me doing that, and it's,
Done you more good than him.
yeah, oh yeah. I was, because I harbored, I had some grudges, man, and there's one guy I arrested, and I told him, I said, "If I ever see you again," I said, "I'm gonna kill you." And I won't tell you what his crime was, but you can imagine.
Yeah.
And I seen him last year when I was up there deer hunting. He had just got out of prison. Been in prison for 17 years. And 18 years. And he seen me. And I was like, "What you done is unforgivable in the eyes of God." I said, "It's not my place to judge you, and I forgive you." That dude cried. Gave me the power. I had the power. And if I'm telling you, that's the biggest weapon in the arsenal is that power. And you hear about it. You watch things and you're like, "Oh yeah, forgiveness." You see, like Kevin Lawson on Instagram, give him a shout out.
Yeah, he's cool.
That guy's got some pretty good stuff, man. And he's got some deep stuff. It kind of hits.
To be free from hate is huge, man. Because I can seriously tell you that there's nobody that I hate. I mean, there's a lot of people have done a lot of things to me, as all of us. But there's nobody that I hate. Now there are people that I learn lessons from. You don't associate with them. You don't forget how they are unless they truly change.
Yeah.
But you can forgive them and you forget about it, and it's not something that you dwell upon.
You've washed it out. It's gone.
If you dwell upon hate every single day of your life, it'll
eat
just
you up.
kill you. It'll kill you.
Cancer.
And it's not hurting anybody else, but you.
It's
You know.
you.
But you can only defeat that hate through the love of Jesus Christ.
100%.
And that's that's one thing that we want to do on this podcast is we want to make sure that people hear about Jesus Christ and what He can do for you. And people, there's a lot of people believe in God, the devil and all of his demons believe in God. They know that he's real, but they don't put their faith in him and they don't follow him. And to be truly happy, you got to believe in him. You've got to have faith in him. You've got to accept him into your heart to cleanse your heart and to remove that hate. And you've got to just commit your life to him, and you got to follow him. And if you have those things, fear cannot exist either.
Absolutely.
You should not be.
That's
No Christian should have a fear of dying. Now, we all, you say you don't have a fear of death. That's kind of an oxymoron, a little bit. But
nobody gets out of this one alive.
Truthfully, it's like I always say. I don't want to die, but I ain't scared to neither.
Yeah.
So
when I went into that thing, it was after I woke up. I'm like, "What's the big deal? You go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going,
And that's
when I'm called, I know where I'm going.
you get that comfort. There's no other peace like that.
Yeah.
That is
let me say this about
it's
forgiveness.
calming.
And my pastor friend to my left over here, I feel like will attest to what I'm going to say. When you have those times, when you finally reach that point in life that you've had that experience, and Marcus, I know you had one. Andy, I'm sure you've had that experience, and I know Thomas has. And you get to that point where forgiveness it's a gift it's a gift, but it's a gift that keeps giving to you, because you know what? Me forgiving you, me forgiving anybody, that's not for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me.
Right.
Yeah, that's my
Because
that's my
still
piece of
that is still God freeing me being able to forgive somebody. That's
that's
the
a
gift.
direct line from him giving you that power.
Yeah.
Giving you that. It's not authority. It's that
It's
the
it's just a
ability
gift.
to, because it takes a lot to, because I've known some crappy people, and I'm like, I forgive you. I can't. It's
Yeah.
and it's so lifting to.
It's
Right.
a gift that never stops. It's a gift you get from your initial salvation. It's the forgiveness of all
It's
your
peace.
sins.
That's
just
like
peace.
luggage, man. It's the gift that
it's
keeps on
just-
giving. You keep it for
yeah.
life,
It
man.
keeps
just,
giving to you.
It
Yeah.
does.
When you give that same gift that Jesus gave to you, and you give that to somebody else,
Pay it
you're
forward.
not. It's freeing.
There are people that have done things to me, and whenever I see them in public, I shake their hand.
Absolutely.
How you doing? Hope everything's going well, and just keep on moving. If they
mark 'em with
if they
kindness.
can't get past that, then that's their problem. But I'm definitely not going to let it affect me in
No.
my life.
Yeah.
and
Absolutely
what I do,
not.
Yeah.
And if you let somebody else see that, then they're going like, man, what's this dude got,
Yeah.
man?
Well, and
how can he do this?
You're lumping hot coals on their head, not making them angry. That's not the goal. The goal is to put
You plant a
you
seed.
put these things on top of their head that make them think, man, okay, why are they forgiving me? What's going on? That gets heavy.
What have they got that I don't have?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if unless you're a total narcissist,
yeah.
that's going to eat at you.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
If I walk out and be like, hey, man, I forgive you, man.
I'm gonna
It's-
call her out.
We're
Your
square.
wife. There's another thing that tells me that you had a serious experience, because I talked to Odie after the first time you were on here, and
Oh, man, y'all having conversation?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
she said thank
She'll
you.
throw me under the bus.
Oh,
bro.
yeah.
She
Nah.
said thank you
I love
because
that woman.
she loves you.
She is awesome, man.
And I'm gonna tell you something. She was worried about you more than anybody else, because
She
but
won't
she
lose you.
said she
Well-
said I have never heard him talk that way about God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, if you drive 100, that's a 6-hour drive. She made it in 6 hours in a Duramax. I was like, I told you. So, but like she never, like I said, I've not spent a night away from her since. And I was supposed to go to Tennessee. I have a VA appointment here in a little while. I think they're going to cut my toenails off so they don't get infected, because infections in diabetics' feet are a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I have pictures of my heel, you need to see if you don't believe me.
I'm good.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to go see Five Finger Death Punch concert tomorrow, and if they remove my toenails, my wife has already said, you ain't going nowhere. Because she don't want me smacking around the stadium in Nashville in flip-flops with wrapped up toes at a rock concert with Marilyn Manson.
Hey,
and
what's more
Five-Finger Death Punch.
what's more rock and roll than that, though?
I'm telling you, man. I was like, Five-Finger
Seriously.
Death Punch, I'm in.
Blood all over my feet.
And
Let's go.
workout music.
let's do this, man. But like I
Some things will never
like
change.
Five-Finger Death Punch because they're big supporters of the troops, and all that.
Law enforcement,
And
man, they're big.
Yeah.
What's the lead dude's name?
You would have, man. My
Ivan.
memory.
Yeah, with
Yes.
all the matted hair.
Ivan.
Yeah. Is it Ivan?
I think it's Ivan.
No.
I don't know.
No, that dude is awesome though, man.
Yeah, they're huge supporters of
Because
the
he's got
military.
like the dude with the dread looking hair. Yeah, that dude's awesome.
Matter of fact, one time he had posted something. I was following him on Instagram. He posted something on Instagram, and I made a comment or something, and the dude actually responded to me. I'll have to go back and pull it up.
That's
for you.
awesome.
He actually responded to me and said something about. I think it was something law enforcement related because he's a huge supporter of law enforcement.
They're super.
Yeah.
And then Marilyn Manson. I'm not a.
Ivan Moody.
Yeah.
I'm talking about dude with the dreads.
Oh, that's Zoltan.
That's Zoltan.
Okay,
He's
yeah,
a-
yeah,
he's
yeah,
a-
yeah,
That
yeah.
just
he's
came
a-
to me. I was like
Zoltan.
Zoltan. That's
He's a BJ. I'm a big time BJJ guy too.
Yeah. I'm not a.
Zoltan Bathory. or
That's it.
something.
Yeah, Zoltan Bathory.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not a
him.
Marilyn Manson fan, but that dude puts on a show.
I gotta say, I cannot support
And-
Marilyn Manson after some of the things he's come out and said.
I'm with you. And it's just part of the show, but I was kind of looking forward because he puts on a dynamic show. But I was like, I really don't care. We can leave after, I said Five-Finger Death Punch. That's what I want to go see.
Right.
Unless you
but,
get your toenails cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a great
I'm going to
remake
find out
of,
here in a little bit.
They did a great remake of Blue on Black.
Blue on Black.
Yeah.
That's
Great
that was a
song.
good one.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
House of the Rising Sun is
They
a
even
good
did.
one,
They
too.
even did one
They
where they
crushed that
brought
one.
Kenny Wayne Shepherd. On Blue on Black.
Yep.
They brought him in to do it with them too.
Yeah, I like how
The
they
original.
support. I like how they support first responders.
Yeah. So, well, we hope you don't have to get your toenails cut off.
I do
today.
too. That's, I had them cut off in Iraq. That's not the most sanitary place to have that done.
No.
Usually I cut them out myself.
Yeah.
These are the point where I'm like, because of my diabetes, I'm like, I don't want to go in there probing around. Like I got an ant bite on one of my feet. It's been there 2 weeks and ain't healing.
Yeah.
And I keep.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna risk it for the biscuit, man.
Right.
I like my feet.
Kind of helping getting around, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
was
they're
like-
they're pretty important.
Well,
Yeah.
No. So,
we've probably gone a little bit long.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm sorry I had to step out.
You're good.
Fortunately, it was a crisis averted.
Good.
So, but Marcus, I hate it. I missed some of that stuff. I really wanted to be here for that.
We just stopped talking while you were gone.
Yeah, we
a
just
whole
sat
lot of
here in
dead air,
silence,
white
dead
space.
silence.
Yeah, we just sit
nothing.
here. We just sit here and stared at
I
Andy.
really
'cause
have
he's so
a
handsome.
with you. I really have a hard time believing that. I do.
he talks to himself right now.
He does.
I
He
do.
does. He will.
My wife's like, "Who are you talking to?"
I get
was
text
like,
messages
"Me."
at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to sleep.
I don't
I'm
sleep.
not.
I'm
What are you
sorry
doing?
if I do that, man. I'm sorry. I,
It's
Hey,
all
apparently,
right.
if it's not you, it's Larry. So I mean,
I just
How could you keep quiet?
Hey, you call him all you
catching
want
up with
to
people,
because
man.
he don't have to sleep.
That's
right?
right. You don't. But anyway, we're going a little long. Thank you, Marcus, for coming. It's,
Absolutely, man. I enjoy it.
I honestly
Enjoy
think
it,
that
you
Marcus
guys.
may become a little bit more of a regular on the show. He may not be here every time because sometimes he oversleeps.
He might have to go back to work.
I don't go to
one day.
sleep till about 5:30 in the morning, and like 5 to 8, 8:30. That's my sleep time. And last week I woke up, my alarm was going, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Well, we'll start taking care of that, but we'll call you and wake you up.
I sleep through that alarm. I sleep through my phone. I sleep through my. I got a monitor. If it goes low or high, I'll have people because there's 3 people that watch it.
Oh,
Annie,
yeah.
Mary, and my wife. I'm getting phone calls, texts. My
yeah.
wife's
So it's
in there,
not even
"Wake
that.
up."
It's not even that app going off that's gonna do it for you. It's gonna be all the phone calls and
It's
people
the-
knocking on your door.
Oh,
You're gonna
yeah.
get rocks through your window.
My wife, Ian, a guy that works with us, he lives a street over from me. My wife's like, "Go over to my house. He's not answering the phone. His blood sugar's 40." I was asleep, man. I was like coma sleep, man. I was like, and
And he actually knows what coma sleep
Yeah,
I
he
do.
knows what it
I
is.
hear my name, and I'm like coming out of the fog. I'm like, what? And I look at the bedroom door, and I see this head, and I'm like,
Who's in my house?
was
Hey,
like,
reaching for your
"Where's my
pistol.
gun?"
I was reaching for my pistol. It was behind me on the other side of the bed. I was like, "Where's my gun?" He's like, "Hey, it's me, Ian." I'm like, "What are you doing in my bedroom?" He's like, you got to get up, bro. Your sugar's below 40. I'm like, huh?
Oh,
I was like, oh God. He takes me in there and he's in the kitchen. He's like, eat. You know, man, I got some great people in my life, and I thank God for them every day.
well, we're glad that you're still here in
Yeah.
ours. So,
That's good.
but
People are like, good to see you. I'm like, it's good to be seen.
y'all probably
In the flesh.
one of our
Yeah.
more animated guests, and I love that about Marcus. I always have. But we are running a little bit long today. You guys got anything?
We appreciate you coming. Had some great times working with Marcus out at the Sear
We had some
School.
fun.
Short time I was out there, but had a great time with those guys out there.
Those are good days, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Now
glad that
it's-
we can still have them. So, Thomas, you
Yeah.
got anything?
No, nothing. That was
Everybody,
great.
Thank you guys for tuning in today. As always, just continue to follow, continue to support. Man, we can't say enough about everybody. We are getting a lot of good responses. We're getting a lot of people following. It makes us feel good. And hopefully, the message that we try to send is getting out there. Like this guy right here always says, if we can only touch one person, we've done our job.
Change one life, man. Your mission complete.
That's it.
This is the Lord's podcast. It's not ours. And it's every time before we come in here on the way here, I pray and I was like, Lord, just take this podcast today and just use us as your willing vessels. And it's all for His kingdom and His mission, His purpose, and most of all for His glory.
Amen.
That's what Andy says. We're not called to be successful. We're called to be faithful.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do.
Yep.
Everybody out there, we love you. And
Love ya,
We'll be
me.
back next week.
we'll be back next week. Y'all keep listening. See ya.